Hello, here is a super quick tutorial on the concept of crown power in Crusader Kings 3. I was talking about marriages in this one, so it kind of makes sense. In EU5. So, the power of the crown is a zero-sum game. You want to disempower the other estates and empower the crown. It's not quite that simple, because if you have powerful nobles, for example, disempowering them means you want to lower their estate power. To lower their estate power, there are three main things you can do. You can revoke their privileges. Four main things. You can revoke their privileges. You can shift country values around. You can empower other estates. You can empower the crown. Those are the main things you can do. In order to revoke their estates, their privileges rather, you need them to have relatively low estate power because it costs 400 multiplied by their estate power. So when it's up at 61, it's just not feasible to revoke their privileges because it's going to cost you too much stability. To get around that, you're going to want to push the communalism. Bridge, where is it? Down here. There we go. You want to push communalism because this changes the revoke privilege cost by up to minus 50%. Very, very strong modifier. So get communalism. And if you're a noble starting power, you're going to want to empower the commoners, the clergy, the crown, and to a lesser extent, the burghers, because they can also become a problem. Then you want to revoke these. You want to start with the ones that give them the most estate power. So unfortunately, it's a cool, unique one for the Ottomans, but you definitely want to get rid of this almost immediately because it's a horrible, horrible modifier. And you want to be revoking their privileges. When you revoke their privileges, it will tank their satisfaction. So make sure that you lower the taxes on them sometime before you revoke the privilege. And then given time, their satisfaction will tick up nice and high. So when it drops back down again, it will cause less problems, less big revolutions in your country when attacking the nobles early game, which should be one of your main focuses in the early game, in my opinion. Be careful about causing revolutions because obviously because they're so strong, if they do rev, they're going to take a lot of your country with them. The main ways to get privilege revoking cost reduction is communalism and changing the power. There are some other modifiers like through laws and things which can be good. Another good trick is if you call a parliament and call the parliament called, I think it's called support the state, it gives you plus 50% crown power. The more crown power you have, the less power everyone who is not the crown has. And if you revoke during that parliament, you're going to have, relatively speaking, less noble power and therefore less of that. Don't go too ham on giving the burghers privileges because as the game goes on, it's very likely that more and more of your income will come from trade. And that gives them, it's not here right now, but that gives them a large modifier to their power. You also will get more and more burghers in general because you're building lots and lots of buildings, which will create openings for burghers, which peasants will promote up, or laborers will promote up into. So don't go too crazy giving the burghers power. You may find that they have become the new nobles. They're not as bad as the nobles, but they can get really quite potent. Another thing to keep in mind, you want to be getting that high estate loyalty. So another parliament that's really good to revoke during is the one where you invite a talented member of an estate. It gives plus 20% equilibrium trending and plus 2% trend towards that equilibrium, which means you can get a really satisfied estate. And then when you crush their hopes and dreams, they're not quite so upset about it. Right, so the other way is you need to empower the crown. And of course, crown power and empowering the crown is really important in general. How can you do that? Well, in general, if given a choice between modifier A and modifier B, if modifier A is you get more crown power, pick modifier A. It doesn't always apply, but especially when you're looking at modifiers of 25, 50%, pick those modifiers. It's really, really important. What are some of those modifiers that are instantly available to you? Appointing members of your cabinet. All the members of your cabinet should, with very few exceptions, in my opinion, be members of the crown estate. Because when you do that, you just filter this by crown to make it easy to find them, by the way. Unfortunately, there's no way to save your filters, so you do have to do this every time. But when all your members of your cabinet are part of the crown estate, we can go in here and we can see that there you go. We've got 25% more crown power right out of the gate. Now let's make one of them head of the cabinet. Now we have a modifier called crown head of the cabinet, which is going to give us another 25%. Then we want to take our army. We want to make sure that the people leading our armies during peacetime, during war, I think there's a case to be made. You might want to go with someone with higher stats, but especially during peacetime, make sure your whole army is led by a member of the crown estate. You will grab yourself another 25%. You want to build a navy at the beginning of the game, if at all possible, because having 100% of your navy commanded by the crown will give you another 25% crown power. Now, you might be saying, Christo, that's a whole lot of people that I need to be part of the crown estate. I need to have so many people in the crown estate that they're qualified to have all the positions in my cabinet and leading my armies and leading my navy. Yes, that's true. So how do you create more people? The AI will organize marriages for your characters for a while. there is a limit put in place to try and avoid just logarithmic growth all over the all over the world of the number of characters. Unfortunately, the effect that this has is once you have about 60 people in your country, the AI will cease getting married. This can result in situations where you have a demographic collapse, where you have too many old people and no young people in the whole country. This can be especially problematic if you're trying to do something like exploring, because if you send someone over the age of 38 exploring, they will die very, very quickly. So what you want to do is get everyone married. Now that seems tedious. Do I have to have you spammed with pop-ups? Someone asked on Reddit, which inspired me to make this video. No, you don't. All you want to do is, let's say every 10 years. Every 10 years I think is probably sufficient. If you want to be more on it, maybe every 5 years. You want to go in here, you want to filter by male, member of the Crown Estate, not married, with an available marriage, who is an adult. There you go. There's 5 of them. And then you go into these people and you marry them all. Marrying them to someone once would be sufficient, but ideally, if you're playing as a Muslim like the Ottomans, for example, with a particular set of laws, I don't think all Muslims have these laws, but the Ottomans certainly do, you can marry each of them 4 times. Now you got your crown breeding machine off the ground, and you're going to be able to create many, 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 many members of the crown estate. How to make the most out of your breeding program? Well, try to get yourself a law like, we don't actually have it available right now, but you want to get yourself a law that means you can select. So preferential, I think, what's it called? Male preferred heir or something like that, where you get to select your heir. That means you can then have this big crown estate and pick from within it to make sure you get some really nice stats. Don't get this though. This is a trap and I didn't notice. Matrilineal, non-exclusive. If you do this, then the kids of all of the people in your country will be of the wife's, or rather mother's, dynasty, which can cause real problems. So I don't recommend doing that unless you're doing, there's probably some way to do a cool run using that, but starting off as these guys, for example, if you set that up, you're almost immediately going to have to switch dynasty, at which point you lose all that progress towards building your big, highly qualified crown estate, which can be very annoying. So don't do that. That is a quick guide to crown power. There's probably quite a lot more to be said, but I want it to be really quick and helpful. Hope that was good. Ask me any questions in the comments. Thanks for watching. P.S. You might be thinking, why does this all matter? Why is crown power such an incredibly important statistic? Let's go over it really, really quickly. It lets you revoke privileges. It's a snowballing effect. The more crown power you have, the easier it's going to be able to get more crown power. It makes the estates happier, which kind of blows my mind, but there you go. It makes it easier to change policy costs. That's within the laws, but don't do it that way. Just do it through parliaments. That's not really important. Gives you power protection. Doesn't matter. You're going to have plenty of this. Efficiency of cabinet. This is coring speed. This is cultural conversion speed. This is religion conversion speed. This is the ability to move your values one way or the other. Incredibly important. Here it is. Here's the big one. Here's the most important thing. Here's how you print money like nobody's business. It's trade income. You get a percentage of the trade income that takes place with your country's trade capacity based on your crown power. It's linear, it's direct. If you have 50% crown power, you get half the money. 75%, you get 75% of the money. It's bonkers. Going from 20% early to 60%, meaning you get 4 times more portion of your trade income, is just mind-bogglingly effective. So you want to be trying to maximize it for this. It lowers the expected cost of court. It lowers building upkeep costs, and you get more parliament-based support. It's a crazy, crazy good modifier. It is the modifier. It is the most important modifier in the game by a significant margin. Seek it out and max out that crown power.